Ever wondered what truly seals a deal? Making a simple agreement legally rock solid.
Mm.
You, our listeners, sent in some great questions about doing business and knowing your rights here in Nepal.
Yeah, lots of good ones.
And it seems like it all boils down to the fascinating world of contracts.
Absolutely.
So, welcome to this deep dive. We're zeroing in on the core of Nepalese contract law.
Specifically based on the Maluki Civil Code 2074. That's the main one now.
Right, the 2017 code. Our mission today, pretty straightforward, really.
Yep.
We want to pull out the key things, the essentials that make contract valid in Nepal.
So you can understand your obligations, your rights.
Exactly. Without getting totally lost in legal jargon, we'll look at what makes an agreement enforceable, from the first offer.
Right through to what happens if someone doesn't hold up their end of the bargain.
So let's start at the beginning. What exactly is a contract under Nepalese law?
Okay, so at its heart, it's a legally enforceable agreement between two or more parties. And it's about doing something, or maybe not doing something.
So it creates real legal obligations and rights.
Precisely. It's a promise the law will back up. And like we said, the Maluki Civil Code 2074, that's our playbook. It replaced the older act.
Got it. So if you're making an agreement, what are the absolute must-have, the non-negotiables according to this code?
Well, there are several key elements. First off, you need a clear offer from one side, and then an acceptance from the other side that matches it completely, unqualified acceptance.
Like, I offer to sell this car for X amount, and the other person says, yes, I accept.
Exactly like that. And importantly, it needs to be communicated properly.
Makes sense. What else?
Plurality of parties. Sounds a bit formal, but it just means you need at least two people.
Or entities, like companies.
Or entities, yes. And they both have to be legally capable of making a contract. You can't contract with yourself, obviously.
Right, you need two capable sides. Okay, what's next?
Intention. The parties have to actually intend to create legal relations.
So not just a casual promise between friends.
Exactly. That chat about lending your lawnmower probably doesn't count. There needs to be a genuine intent for the agreement to be legally binding.
Okay. Intent is key.
Then there's lawful consideration. The code doesn't spell it out in one section, but it's definitely implied.
Consideration. That's the something for something idea, isn't it?
That's it. Something of value has to be exchanged. Could be money, goods, services, even a promise to do something later.
So both sides give something up or promise to.
Yeah.
What about who can make these deals? Capacity.
Yep. Capacity of parties, super important.
Yeah.
Generally, in Nepal, you need to be 18 or over.
Legal age.
Legal age, sound mind, mentally capable of understanding the agreement, and not legally disqualified for some other reason.
Okay. Age, sound mind, not barred, and consent. How does that factor in?
Critically, consent has to be free and genuine, totally voluntary. Meaning no coercion, nobody can force you, no undue influence like someone taking advantage of a position of power, no fraud, no lies or misrepresentation about important facts, and no fundamental mistake about what you're agreeing to.
So if consent isn't freely given, the contract could be in trouble.
Big trouble. It could become voidable, but we can get to that. The point is, consent must be clean.
Clean consent.
Yes.
Got it. And the purpose of the contract itself.
Lawful object. The whole point of the agreement has to be legal.
Makes sense.
Can't have a valid contract for something illegal, obviously, or something against public policy or basic morality.
So no contracts for smuggling or anything like that?
Definitely not. And lastly, certainty and possibility of performance.
Meaning the terms have to be clear.
Clear, definite, not vague. And crucially, the promises have to be actually possible to perform.
You can't agree to sell unicorns.
Yeah, exactly. An agreement to do the impossible generally won't hold up.
Okay, so that's quite a list. Offer and acceptance, 2+ parties, intent, consideration, capacity, free consent, lawful object, and certain possibility.
Those are the big ones, yeah. If you tick all those boxes.
Then you've likely got a valid contract forming. How does that moment happen?
It forms, legally speaking, at the moment that valid offer gets a valid communicated acceptance. That's the trigger point.
When the agreement becomes binding. Now, you mentioned voidable earlier. What if something's wrong with one of those elements? Void versus voidable.
Right. A void contract is basically invalid from the get-go.
Like it never existed.
Exactly. It lacks a fundamental element, so the law says it has no effect. Nada.
Oh, okay, and voidable.
Voidable is different. It starts valid, but there's a flaw often. It's that lack of free consent we talked about.
Like if someone was pressured.
Precisely. The person whose consent wasn't genuine usually has the option. They can choose to cancel the contract or let it stand.
Okay, void is dead on arrival. Voidable can be canceled by the wronged party. So assuming we have a valid contract, what's expected?
Performance. You've got to do what you promised.
Keep your word.
Basically, yes. The Civil Code says parties have to perform their obligations according to the contract, terms, time, place, how it's done, all of it.
But life happens. What if someone doesn't perform? What's a breach of contract?
That's exactly it. A breach is when one party fails to meet their obligations under the contract. They don't do what they agreed to do.
And if that happens, what can the other person, the injured party, do?
The law provides remedies. The most common one is damages.
Money.
Usually, yeah. Monetary compensation for the losses the innocent party suffered because of the breach. Trying to make them whole again, financially.
Okay, damages are common.
Mhm.
Are there other options if money isn't really enough?
Yes. Sometimes a court might order specific performance.
Forcing them to actually do the thing.
Forcing them to do the specific thing they promised, yes. Usually happens when the subject of the contract is unique, like a piece of land or rare art, where money can't just replace it.
Interesting. Any others?
There's also an injunction. That's a court order stopping someone from doing something that would violate the contract.
Like preventing them from selling property to someone else when they already agreed to sell it to you.
Exactly like that. And finally, rescission, which basically means canceling the contract.
Wiping the slate clean.
Pretty much, it terminates the contract, freeing both sides from future obligations, often used when there was misrepresentation or a similar issue at the start.
Okay, so damages, specific performance, injunction, rescission. Quite a toolbox for when things go wrong.
It provides options depending on the situation, yeah.
So, wrapping this up then, Nepalese contract law, under the Maluki Civil Code, really aims for fairness and predictability, doesn't it?
It does. It's built on that foundation of mutual consent, capable parties, a lawful purpose, and that exchange of value. It creates a framework.
A framework for enforceable promises to protect everyone involved.
That's the goal.
So a final thought for you, our listener. As you navigate agreements, big or small, maybe pause and think. Are all these essential elements actually in place?
Good question to ask.
Understanding these foundations, well, doesn't just protect your interests, does it? It also helps make interactions clearer, more reliable for everyone.
Definitely fosters better dealings all around.
Now, obviously, contract law can get incredibly complex if you're facing a really tricky situation.
Yeah, specific legal advice is always the way to go. This is just the overview.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But hopefully this gives you a solid grounding. Thanks for diving deep with us into the essentials of contract law in Nepal today.